Now, this video isn't about locating yourself with your iPhone. It's all about what I call a guitar portable stand. You can use it while gigging, going over a friend's house, or whatever, and I'm going to show you how to build it. But before we do, let's take a look at the stand. The first one here is for an acoustic guitar because an acoustic guitar has a thicker body. The second one is for a solid body guitar because it has a thinner body and needs a shorter support. Now this stand is lightweight and it's easy to fold up and fold back out. Let's take a look at how we do that. First you take off the center support, fold it down, and you're ready to go. Now when you get where you got to go, just open it back up, spread out the legs, put in the center support, and that's it. So let's start building it. Now here's everything you need. Let's go through it one piece at a time. Starting here, we have 4 pieces of 1/4 inch thick by 3/4 inch wide by 16 inch long strips. Then we have 2 pieces of 1/4 inch thick by 2.5 inches high by 13 inches long stock, and I've glued on a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 13 inch strip so it looks like this now. And we have 2 of these. We have a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch piece, and I've cut the sides at a 22.5 degree angle because if you cut them later on, it's very hard to cut them when the piece is this short. I have 2 sort of buttons, I'll call them, that are 1/4 inch thick and 1 inch in diameter that we'll be using later also, and I've cut this from some spare stock that I had. I have 2 pieces of 1/2 inch dowel that are 3/4 inches long. I have 2 flathead screws that are 3/4 inches long also. For the final pieces of wood, I have 2 pieces of wood that are 1/2 inch thick by 2 inches high by 16 inches long. And in the end, we'll be using some felt blanket, and this is extra thick felt blanket. It works really well to cushion the instrument you're putting on the stand from the stand. Oh yes, I forgot one of the most interesting things. We need a plastic bottle. Here I have an old detergent plastic bottle, and here I have a soda bottle. From this we're going to cut 2 rectangles that are 1.5 inches wide by 3 inches long. And when they're cut out, they'll look something like this. Now I've machined the 2 16-inch pieces. First of all, I measured back 12.5 inches to here. Then I cut a 5 degree angle on this end. I measured up 1 inch here, and I cut this piece off. I put a hole here 1 inch from the bottom and 1 inch from this side before I cut that 5 degree angle, by the way. I measured a 7/8 inch radius curve here and then trimmed that off. And that brings this measurement down to 1 7/8 instead of 2 inches. So I drew a line from here to here, and then I trimmed that down. So this is 2 inches, and then it slowly tapers down to 1 7/8 inches. And I did that on both pieces. Now we take the 13-inch piece, and we're going to take one of these and put it so that it's flush up against the end. And I'm going to do 2 things. First of all, I'm going to mark this end here and trim that off a little later. Second of all, I'm going to take my 3/32 inch bit with which I drilled this original hole and just drill right through to mark a hole in here. You notice with the second piece, I'm doing it the opposite place. So when you put these together like this, the hole is in the same place. Now I'm going to drill out all 4 of these holes with a 1/2 inch bit so that I can put in the 1/2 inch dowels. So I've machined these two 13-inch long pieces. Let me tell you how I did it. I went 5 3/4 inches from this end and made a mark up here. I went 6 1/4 inches from this end and made a mark down on the bottom, and then I cut. I made a mark 11 1/2 inches up, and I made a mark on the top, and then I made a mark 1 3/8 inch down, and that gave me a vertical space right here. But I rounded it off a little bit, and then I cut this piece. So I cut this out. I did that on both sides. I put the pieces back together again temporarily, so I remember how they go. I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm going to take a 3/4 inch piece and glue it so that it's on here at this edge, and it covers this edge of this piece here. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other piece. I'm going to put it like that and line it up here at the bottom, and then line it up at the top. But we can't rotate it anymore, as you can see, because this material is in the way. So we're going to have to cut this down. So to do that, I took a small piece of dowel to fill this 1/2 inch hole in temporarily, and I marked the center, and then I took my compass and made it as long as the end here, and then marked like that. Now with that done, I'm going to take a straight edge, I'm going to butt it against this point over here, and then I'm going to complete the line like this. Then I'm going to cut off all this material. Okay, so I filed down to that line, and as you notice now, this piece rotates very nicely. If you look on the other side, it's just enough so that it rotates. And I did the same thing to the other piece on the other side. So now we can have one piece like this, and then one piece like this, and they can go together, and when we spread them like this, they form our guitar stand. But how are we going to keep them together and allow them to spread? Well, we could use a hinge, but actually that's why we cut out that plastic before. Because we're going to take the plastic and put it on here, staple it on, and then take this other piece to cover it and keep it in place, and then we'll have the hinge process. So let's get started with that. We're going to take our first piece here, and you notice the way this is oriented, so we're going to put this like this. And we're going to put it, it doesn't really matter exactly where you put it. I'm going to put it on the flat there, and now I'm going to staple it in 2 spots. And if the staples are not flush, then you can just hammer them down so that they're not as flush as they can get. And now I'm going to take the other piece and put it somewhere over here and staple that one in too. Now we take the other piece like this, put it next to it, and we're going to staple the other side. And you'll notice that we now have a hinge. To cover this up, we're going to take the remaining 2 1/4 inch by 3/4 inches pieces, and notice that I've rounded this off. You notice that this is round like this, and that's because when these open, if it wasn't rounded, the 2 pieces would collide with each other. But by rounding them over, they'll work fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this on. Okay. Both pieces have been glued, and as you can see, we have our nice hinge effect. I've glued the dowel into the 1/2 inch hole on the 13-inch long piece such that it's flush on this side and protrudes on this side. And I've done that on both 13-inch long pieces. The next thing we're going to do is put the buttons on. What I've done already is I've drilled a hole, a pilot hole, sort of in the center, as close to the center as I could get it. I've used a 3/32 inch bit, and that's usually a pretty good pilot hole. And then, in each button, I have drilled a clearance hole, meaning it lets the screw go through without having to be screwed in, and I've countersunk it so it'll be nice and flat. So now I'm just going to screw this in and put one on either side. With the buttons attached, now we can slide the supports down and open up the device, and it'll sit there, but it's not staying where we want it to. We need something over here to hold it in place and make sure that this support doesn't come down while we're using it. So first thing we're going to do is going to open this up to 45 degrees. And I just have a regular speed square, and that's a 45-degree angle, so that works great. Now, we're going to take that 3.5-inch long piece that we cut earlier on, and we're going to place it up like this. And we're going to mark under here where this piece intersects with the support legs. Now I've done that, and you notice I have 4 places. Now I'm going to make this go down about halfway, just like that, and I'm going to cut out these pieces halfway down and make 2 channels in here. I've made those 2 channels, and I can fit them on here, but there's nothing to keep them from moving. So what I'm going to do is mark on either side of the channel, see, and I'm going to cut down so that these 2 lock together. So I have to take off the buttons and remove these, make the cuts, and put them back on. Now that we've completed the locking piece, and we've also completed the notches in here, all we have to do is place the 2 together, like so, and it's all locked up, can't move, and we also have it at a 45-degree angle, which is what we want. Well, now I've painted all of the wooden pieces black, and I've cut strips of the felt, and I've placed them in these cutouts and 2 little pads on the top to act as bumpers for the guitar. So let's see how this folds up and then comes back apart. We take out the center piece that we cut, put it aside, close the legs, push them up. You can take the center piece and just slide it in here, and we're ready to go. When we get to where we want to go, we take this out, bring the legs down, spread them apart, take this piece here, put it in together, and we're ready to go. We place this down, we put our guitar in, and it's in the holder, and it's held nice and steady.